Hello, my dear viewers. This amazing story will be very instructive for you. It is very interesting and beautiful. I wish you enjoy watching it.
Let her pee under herself. I'm not her babysitter, the daughter yelled into the phone. Unashamed of her old mother, I came for my inheritance, not to take out pots, but later. Lucy Stone was used to living the high life. The only daughter of her parents, in addition, a late child, she was accustomed to having the best from the youngest nails. In kindergarten, Lucy was always the best dressed. She had a lot of beautiful dresses and suits, and when they became small, her mother ran to the stores and picked up a new portion of not cheap children's clothes. The Stones could afford it. Lucy's mother, Kathy, worked as a merchandiser in a jewelry store, and her husband, Victor, was the director of a trading base. Why such expensive things? Relatives and acquaintances wondered. Children grow up quickly. Before you know it, things will be small again. No, smiled Kathy, always smiling. My little girl must have the best. As Lucy grew older, the baby dresses and suits were replaced by youthful clothes. Mom, these skirts are in fashion now, she transparently hinted, showing in the catalog favorite model. And these pants are nice too. You can buy the same thing at the market for half the price. Katie replied, looking at the skirts with surprise, which were indeed sold at the local clothing market at a more affordable price. At the market, Lucy pursed her lips. The market is yesterday. People buy things from catalogs all over the civilized world now. Her mother only shook her head, but a week later Lucy had that skirt from the catalog, which really did not differ from the market. When Lucy turned 16, Victor told his wife that he was leaving her for another woman. At first, the girl regarded it as a betrayal, but her friend Catherine, who was 2 years older, said, "Lucy, don't be silly. Have you never heard that a tender calf suckles two mothers, and you're a spoiled little girl? Aunt Naomi alone will hardly be able to meet your heavy demands." The girl thought about it, but having pondered, found that Catherine was probably right. She is a smart girl. So the next day, Lucy called her father, and Victor joyfully exclaimed, "Daughter, you're good for calling. You know what? Come tomorrow. Write down the address." His father's new wife turned out to be a sultry blonde with a doll's face and springy curls, the kind of Barbie doll that wealthy men like Victor were attracted to. "Natalie," whispered Barbie, holding out her chick hand, studded with bracelets. "Natasha, well, why embarrass the girl?" hummed Victor. "We'd all belong here. Our own." Lucy grinned to herself. "I bet that Natalie is ready to eat me alive. Whatever. After all, I came to see my father. Now I'm going to answer her." "Lucy," she purred, holding out a hand to her father's date with short clipped fingernails adorned with a thin silver bracelet from Turkey. Natalie smiled thinly and Victor laughed. "Well, now we've met. Now let's eat. I don't know about you, but I'm starving." Dinner on the occasion of our acquaintance was ordered in a restaurant. "I hate standing at the stove," Natalie winked, and to Lucy's surprise, she looked like a normal girl. "Do you?" "Me too," she admitted, and she was relieved. It looked like they were going to be friends, if not friends, then buddies. Dinner was wonderful. The stepmother and stepdaughter were really becoming friends, which Victor was glad of. At first, he had feared that Lucy, Natalie, or even both of them, would be jealous. To his great relief, however, nothing of the sort happened. Natalie, despite her doll-like appearance and mannerisms, was a wise and understanding woman, and Lucy was not a shallow girl. Perhaps such friendliness was a sly move on the part of one of them, or again, both of them. And if it was, so what? The girls go shopping together, have lunch together at cafes. Natalie introduced Lucy to her hairdresser, and the latter in turn helped her with a general cleaning once. When Victor wasn't too busy, he organized picnics for his girls in nature. No conflicts and completely unnecessary dramas. Beautiful. Another person who adored Lucy and was willing to take the moon out of the sky for her was her grandmother. Betty was Victor's mother, and even the divorce of her son did not affect the relationship between grandmother and granddaughter. Besides, Betty's grandmother gave Lucy an excellent 2-room apartment of improved layout almost in the center of the city. That's the kind of grandmother you don't throw away. Well, but such things. But the daughter of trade workers learned these things in elementary school. By the way, Lucy wasn't Betty's only granddaughter. Harry, Victor's younger brother, had 2 children, son Evan and daughter Veronica. However, it was Lucy, as the first granddaughter, who was promised the 2-bedroom apartment. "I'll give you a deed of gifts so you won't have to wait 6 months after I'm gone," Betty said. "How is father doing?" asked the loving grandmother, putting jam in her granddaughter's pancakes, which she was a master of baking. "He's doing all right," Lucy shrugged. "Younger, better looking. That's what love does to people." Betty shook her head. "Don't you feel sorry for your mother?" the old woman asked. "Vidya, of course, my son, but no one canceled female solidarity. Why should I feel sorry for her? She's an interesting woman. Do you think I'm small and do not understand where she goes in the evenings, makeup and perfumed? And before that, she goes into the bedroom with her cell phone and chats with her boyfriend. Well, daddy's in love." "Love?" Grandma laughed. "I beg you. A gray hair in the beard, that's what it's called." "But everybody's happy and contented," the girl said. "Old times, old Moors," nodded Betty. "And there are advantages to divorcing parents," thought Lucy, as she left her father's house with another batch of crisp new bills. Another benefit of an ancestral divorce is the frequent absence of her mother from home. Legend had it that Kathy would leave to take in the night's goods and then spend the night at the office, as she would say, bashfully lowering her eyes. Lucy was amused. Well, did the parent really think her daughter could easily eat a pound of noodles? Oh well, whatever. At least she had a place to go out with Jack. Everybody's happy and content. 2 years have passed, and it's time to think about further education. "I'm going to study in the capital," Lucy told her mother on the eve of her final exams. "To the capital?" Katie asked in surprise. "Why the capital? Why don't you like our universities?" "The universities may be good, but our town has become too small for me." Well, didn't you say that I should have the best?" The girl smiled. "Well, I did," agreed the mother. "But aren't you scared?" "Not Lucy shook her head. "I'll tell you more. Only there I can be happy. My level of knowledge allows me to try my luck. All in all, the chances are not bad." What's true is true. You can call Lucy capricious and spoiled as much as you want, but what you can't take away is her intelligence, intellect, and, as it turns out, determination. However, all this does not mean that the whole world is spinning on the desired Lucy stone. "Well, what if you don't get in?" "I've been thinking about that too," nodded her daughter. "If I don't get in, I'll get a job as a waitress, for example. Next year, I'll try again." "She's grown up after all," Kathy noted and said. "Well, I heard you. I suggest we revisit this conversation later," and sighed, as it seemed to Lucy, with relief. "Well, you bet." The girl followed the chuckle. "I'll be gone, and then that mother will have fun with her beau to the fullest." Lucy knew for sure that her mother would let her go. Katie went to her room, and her daughter stayed to watch television. About 40 minutes later, her mother returned to the room in a black evening dress with a very exciting neckline. "I'll be late, past midnight," she said, taking a golden clutch from the table. "We have an event at work." "I see," Lucy shrugged, barely containing her laughter. "Yes," she exclaimed as the door closed behind her mother, then grabbed the phone. "Jack," the girl sang languidly, "and I'm alone tonight." "Got it," the caller replied. "I'm on my way." "Are you kidding?" Jack asked in surprise when her close friend told him about her decision to go to Washington. "No," Lucy answered, making herself comfortable on his shoulder. "What's there to catch?" "Well, you can't complain. Not with your parents," he chuckled. "Maybe," she didn't argue and added enthusiastically. "But, you know, Washington is a city of opportunity. Real opportunity. What's here?" "What about here? There are people here, too." "That's right, too. And I want to be at the top of the list, not also human. I often dream that I come to our darkness in a luxury foreign car with an open top, wearing a short dress, an expensive silk scarf, and big darkened glasses. Like a Hollywood diva. Beautiful, isn't it?" "Yes," Jack answered simply. "But I suppose it's possible here, too. I'm sure your parents will be able to punch your ticket to the big time." "You're so boring," Lucy snorted jokingly. "Don't you think I'm sure of that?" "But I'd like to punch the ticket myself. I mean, it's so great to do it all by yourself." I don't know," said the boyfriend. "As for me, it is very good to have ancestors, which, as if on a plate, will present you a beautiful life. Hey, you don't understand anything, she waved it away. It's a pleasure not to depend on anyone. And how can you be dependent? Parents will give you a push, and then yourself. What kind of dependence is that? Apparently, we have different views on life. Lucy concluded thoughtfully. Well, Mr. Jack, your position is clear. Then it's either to me, the boy said playfully. Wait a minute, murmured the young lover, but Jack didn't seem to hear her. Wait a minute, Jack, I've got an idea. What kind of an idea? Let's go together. Lucy suggested it with enthusiasm. What about? Jack asked her with a grin. I'm serious, she said, standing up and leaning on her elbow. We'll earn money together, and little by little we'll join the ranks of the capital. Well, isn't that tempting? I don't know, said the boy thoughtfully. Maybe, but I haven't thought about it. Think about it, Lucy insisted. All right, I'll think about it, the boy promised, and with a hint added, but I didn't come to visit you to talk. Jack and Lucy had been dating for a year and a half, and there was no thought of breaking up. They were very happy together, and the rest was nothing. For example, the fact that Jack was 3 years older than his girlfriend and had already graduated from technical school this year. They'd met at a very racy party and hadn't parted since. The young people walked by the hands for 6 months, and the matter did not go further than kissing. True, no one believed it. However, Jack loved Lucy and decided that their first intimacy would be magical, like in the movies. Everything happened just as he had planned. On the eve of his girlfriend's 16th birthday, Jack agreed with a friend that he would give him the keys to his parents' cottage. Good, the season was not dacha, and the arrival of Harvey's ancestors was excluded. Lucy's 16th birthday was celebrated in a family circle. From friends, she had only Ekaterina, but she went to a neighboring town to take care of her sick grandmother. Lucy did not dare to invite Jack to her birthday party. Mom, shall I go out? Lucy asked her mother cheerfully when the festive part of the birthday party came to an end. The guests began to pour, as they called it, not in the toast, wanted to dance, and someone made clumsy attempts to drag out a folk song about frost. It was 8:45 on the clock. It was 15 minutes before Jack arrived. How long? Kitty asked with a smile. Until 12 o'clock, Lucy answered in an unamused voice, and noticing her mother's hesitation, added, Mammy, please. Tomorrow is Saturday. Well, all right, nodded her mother. Here's some money for a cab. Don't hang around in the dark. Thank you, the Namamitsa was happy. The phone rang. It's for me, Lucy said, and grabbed the receiver and said cheerfully, at the machine. Hello, my doll. Happy birthday. Kuda friend. Health, happiness. May all your dreams come true and all that. Thank you. You're a poet, laughed the girl. It's going to happen. All right, baby, I'll be at your door in 5 minutes. Jack had probably called from a payphone on the corner of the neighboring house. Oh, Lucy exclaimed. Why don't you say something? I've got to get ready. I'm sure you're the most beautiful person in the world. Oh, come on. The girl hung up the phone and ran to her room to touch up her lips. Shit. The girl cursed when she found her purse missing. In the hallway was also not found, and Lucy realized with annoyance that her purse was probably in the hall, where the guests were sitting. She was waiting for her mistress in the armchair. There was nothing to do. I had to go into the hall, drawing the attention of the guests with bright lilac pearlescent lipstick and perfume. The groom, John, Sasha's maternal uncle, winked drunkenly, while the girl contemplated how. A clever answer, Betty intervened. Stop embarrassing the girl, the older woman said. Weren't you young? Lucy thought it was a good idea to retreat, especially as she heard the sound of a car pulling up outside the window. The girl came out of the entrance and really saw a Cherry 9, Jack's Pride, sung by the fashionable at that time combination. Hello, princess, said the lover, lowering the window. Hello, smiled coquettishly Namamitsa and gracefully walked around the car and sat down next to the driver. This is for you, Jack said, handing her a bouquet of red and white roses. Roses, Lucy exclaimed and threw herself around his neck. I can't believe how pretty they are. Do you like them? The boy asked with a satisfied look after a long kiss. You ask. But that's not all, Jack said in a mysterious voice. What else? Impatiently, like a little girl asked the girl. You'll see. Let's go. Autumn twilight already covered the city. The lovers drove out of town, and in about 20 minutes they came to a small house, lit by the faint light of a street lamp. Lucy asked, "Where are you taking me?" There didn't seem to be a soul in the house. "Why do we need someone?" the gentleman said meaningfully, and the girl's heart fluttered. Jack, sensing Lucy's mood, gently took her hand and whispered, "It will be all right now." They entered the gate. Jack turned to Lucy felt that her lover was somewhere far away, anywhere but with her. Being a smart girl, she couldn't help guessing that her decision to study in Washington was the reason. Lucy also realized something else. All this could be stopped. It would only take a small thing to tell Jack that she had changed her mind, but she couldn't give up on her dream. At 2:30, Jack started home. "Would you like some coffee?" Lucy suggested it. "No, thanks." Jack shook his head. He'd never said no before. He had to go to work in the morning. Noting this, Lucy's spirits sank. "Take it easy," she said to herself mentally. "What's the matter? Maybe Jack's in a hurry to get home because his mom isn't feeling well, or work's a mess and he needs a good night's sleep. And I'm just getting myself worked up." Deep down, however, the girl realized that no, she wasn't. It was obvious that Jack was excited about her upcoming trip to the capital, and God only knew how it would end. Lucy knew one thing: she would go there, period. After all, what was a serious relationship? Certainly not just sighs under the moon and kisses. It's also about respecting each other. And if Jack feels that way about my decision, then he just doesn't respect me, came the not-so-pleasant, but, as it seemed to her, correct thought. "Well, I'm off," the boy smiled strangely. "Bye," nodded Lucy, and after an awkward kiss, he bowed out. The girl went to bed, but sleep wouldn't come. Is this really the end? Thought Lucy, and there was an awful longing in her heart. She heard Kathy come in and suddenly envied her parent, someone who wouldn't let herself be tormented by unhappy thoughts. Lucy remembered her parents' divorce and, despite her young age, concluded that it had been painless for both of them. On this optimistic note, the girl fell asleep. The car service ended at 7, and Jack was looking forward to the end of the workday. But this time it wasn't to meet Lucy. "Archie, how about a beer?" he asked his partner. "Yeah, I wouldn't mind," Archie nodded immediately. "I'm on call tonight, so no problem." "That's good," Jack sighed. "Is something wrong with you?" his partner asked, looking at him intently. The two men not only worked together, but were friends and sometimes had a heart-to-heart talk over a beer or a bottle of the national drink. "How can I put it?" Jack said thoughtfully. "More like yes than no. Did you have a fight with yours? I've always said that." "Archie, don't give me that, would you?" "I didn't." But what?" "But something's wrong," Archie said with conviction. The guys left the car repair shop and went to a commercial kiosk near the car repair shop. Meanwhile, Lucy sat in the kitchen of the apartment, which was rented by Catherine, and poured out her heart to her older friend. "Catherine, I cannot give up my dream, but I cannot without Jack. Do you understand?" she questioned after the third glass of wine. "What is there not clear?" With a grin said Catherine, looking carefully at her friend. "As if not too much. Trouble with Mom, and she certainly does not need. Love, but that Aunt Naomi forgot about her daughter?" "No, not her, but it seems Lucy, sober as a glass." Catherine sighed in relief and continued. "You want everything at once, but your Jack just wants to be with you, here and now. Am I making myself clear?" "Well, yes," Lucy nodded. "Well, then the question is, what do you want more?" "Both," she answered without hesitation. No," shook her head Catherine. "So does not happen." "What does not happen?" Lucy objected. "I want to study in Washington and be with the man I love. In my opinion, it's quite normal." "Normal," nodded her older friend, lighting a cigarette. "But you see, Lucy, people often have to sacrifice love, career, motherhood, a lot of things. And from what you've told me, you're going to have to sacrifice something. Either love or the chance to go to school in Washington. Is that what you're willing to sacrifice?" Well. Lucy thought about it, but she couldn't think of anything. "Good," Catherine nodded. "Then advice." "I could really use some good advice." Lucy sighed and reached for a pack of cigarettes. "Where?" giggled her friend and slapped her lightly on the fingers. You don't know how? Don't transfer the product. I won't, the girl promised. So what's your advice? The advice is simple. Listen to your heart. My heart? Lucy asked dumbly. To the heart, answered Catherine. To the heart, listened. And what does your heart tell you? She asked. And my heart, silent, said Lucy. Ooh, friend, not that judgmental, not that disappointed. Catherine stretched out. So if it is silent, then there are no feelings. That's not true. I love Jack. So, not so much if not ready for him to give up studying in the capital, summarized Catherine. In her eyes danced cheerful devils, but Lucy did not notice it. She was immersed in her own worries. She wasn't ready, was she? Rather no, Lucy had to admit. Well, there you are. And I always thought that we have a serious relationship, she said sadly. Shirka, I beg you. Well, what is 17 years? Yes, you consider it, and you have not yet begun to live. Do you know how many of these will be in your life? You'll get tired of counting. If you go to Washington, you won't even think about Jack. I don't think so. No, well, at first, yeah, I don't disagree, but it's understandable. It's the first man you've ever been with. Well, and then? Catherine waved her hand, thus letting her younger friend realize how easy and simple everything is. Do you think so? Lucy asked doubtfully. Yes, I'm sure of it, Catherine said hotly. First, out of sight, out of heart. Well, and secondly, with your looks can count on the most luxurious choice. I don't know. What don't you know? You have a dream? Well, good for you. You've made up your mind to fulfill it. Then go for it, especially since you have the means to do it. What about Jack? You know, Lucy, by the way, this trip could be a great opportunity to test your feelings for him. If Jack wants to be with you, he'll run to the ends of the earth. Well, and if he doesn't, then? Catherine just fluttered her arms. Well, thank you for listening, Lucy said. I think I'll go. Having seen her off, Catherine sat down at the table and thought deeply about something. Then she poured the rest of the wine into her glass and smiled as she finished her drink. The conversation in Archie's apartment was no less dramatic. I love her, Archie, you know? I love her. Yes, I understand, nodded the friend and co-worker. And her? Of course she does. Or, what are you trying to say? What I'm saying, Pahan, is that you need to find some kind of compromise. She wants to go to DC and make something of herself, and a car mechanic's enough for you. Your Lucy's used to having the best, and that's fine. You know how to make do with less, but we can at least try to find a solution that works for everyone. And what would that solution be? Jack asked sadly. I don't know about that, Archie said. Well, Lucy's right. Why don't you go with her? We'd make money together, buy a place together, have kids together. You're a smart guy. You wouldn't be in the capital. I like our city too, Jack said. For me to leave here would be like a betrayal. You say that too. No, it's true, so. Well, let's just hope Lucy changes her mind. Pahan, be honest. I've never really liked your sweetheart much, to be honest. Spoiled, arrogant, but here I even respect her. The girl decided to get out from under the wing of her wealthy parents and start her own life. That's a big deal. What am I supposed to do? Jack asked in despair. Well, I can't advise you on that, Archie said. Either you go together or you stay. That's up to you. If she leaves and you stay, it's over. Mark my words. The next day, Jack came home from work and went to the store. He bought sausage, bread, mayonnaise, and headed towards the parking lot where his trusty 9 car was parked. Oh, what people! Jack heard a woman's voice behind him. Turning around, he saw Catherine, Lucy's friend. Oh, hello, Jack said. Why so glum? No reason. Did you and Lucy have a fight? Don't tell me you don't know anything about it. He started to get a bit agitated. Well, why not? Catherine grinned. And if you want to know, I'm on your side. Even so. Imagine, I tried to persuade her, but to no avail, she exclaimed, her eyes rounding eloquently. Do you want a ride? Jack offered. Well, if it's not too much trouble. Not at all. Get in. Catherine settled into the front seat, and Jack wondered what Lucy had said. She said, well, I don't remember verbatim. The girl was embarrassed. Why would I need verbatim? He shrugged. You can get it roughly. Well, Lucy said she didn't want to give up her dream. I heard that too, Jack grinned, starting the car. She also said it was a new life, new people, all that sort of thing. Jack grimaced. Now that's a low blow. New people, new boyfriends. Jack, what the hell did she say? Lucy wants to meet new people, and she says this town is too small for her, but she loves you. Catherine knew that if she openly denounced her friend, it will not do her honor. No, it is necessary to create the appearance that she stands up for Lucy, otherwise she risks to be the last pig in the eyes of Jack. Noticing that he wanted to say something, Catherine said thoughtfully, "In any case, you need to talk again." "Okay, we'll figure it out," he muttered. "Let's go." "I love Lucy very much, of course, but she's wrong here," Catherine chirped dearly. "Can you imagine? She hinted that for her in priority career, and only then everything else. Do you know what I mean?" "Not really," Jack admitted. "What's not to understand?" She hummed, tapping her finger on her temple. "Lucy wants a career, and she doesn't give a damn about your love." "No, it's none of my business, but—" Catherine was meaningfully silent, and Jack thought for a moment. No, Lucy couldn't pretend like that, he thought. But on the other hand, she's just obsessed with the idea of going to this Washington of hers. And as it turns out, I didn't know her at all. As the young people drove up to Catherine's house, she took a careful look and decided that perhaps that was enough. Her words had clearly fallen on fertile ground, and the rest was a matter of technique. "Jack," Catherine said, placing her hand gently on his shoulder. "If you need my help, you know where I live." "What kind of help?" Jack asked with a sigh. "Any kind," she smiled. "Talk, walk, or, get drunk. If anything, I live in apartment 15. "I'll keep that in mind," Jack said with an indifferent look. Graduation was approaching, and Lucy's mood was tending towards zero. At every recess, the girls talked excitedly about their outfits, and Lucy was the only one who kept her mouth shut. "Stona, why are you so full of water?" Lara, who was a bit of an echidna, asked. "Did you have your dress delivered from Paris or Milan?" Lucy decided not to give in to provocation. She had enough problems as it was. She and Jack had seen each other only twice in the last 2 weeks, and both meetings looked less like a date than anything else in the world. The first time, Jack had tried to persuade Lucy to stay in her hometown. She had stood her ground. "Jack," Lucy asked, "is it just me, or are you avoiding me?" "Why would you think that?" He answered question for question. "Well, I wasn't born yesterday. I just have a lot of work to do." They sat on a bench outside the house where Lucy lived. Aunt Matey, the neighbor, who was irrepressibly curious and passionate about gossip, passed by. "I brought her here," she thought with annoyance, and said as casually as possible, "and before it was not a hindrance for you," she said, and then mentally slapped herself. "Why the hell am I groveling?" That was before Jack threw. "Jack, come on, don't you want to?" "I don't," he interrupted and added, "Lucy, I'm sorry, but I have to go." "You idiot. Don't you want to?" Lucy scoffed at herself. Jack kissed Lucy on the cheek, and his lips were as cold as ice. "Well, goodbye," said the boy, and went away. The girl couldn't stand it and burst into tears. Thank God, there was no one around. Having calmed down a little, she went up to the apartment and collapsed on the bed. Lucy never realized how much time had passed before she heard Katie's voice. "Did something happen to you?" "Huh?" She stared at her mother incomprehensibly. "I said, did something happen to you?" "No, I'm fine. I'm just really nervous about exams." "Why would you be nervous?" Katie was surprised. "With your level of knowledge." "I'm still nervous," sighed her daughter. "I see. Lucy? Well, what else?" "Just don't hide anything from me, okay?" "What are you talking about?" "Just for future reference," her mother answered and left the room. She's got it all figured out, Lucy thought aloofly, and fell soundly asleep. Katie's instruction had come in handy. A few days later, Lucy suddenly felt sick during a written math exam. She felt violently nauseous and dizzy. "Anna, can I get out?" Lucy begged when she couldn't stand it any longer. "Not to cheat?" one of the committee members asked suspiciously. "I don't think so," the math teacher said slowly, looking at the girl's green face. "Lucy doesn't need it." "Well, if that's the case," the representative of the education department favored her with his hands. Anna nodded to Lucy, and the girl flew out of the office. She barely had time to run to the restroom, where she was thoroughly turned inside out. "Catherine, I think I'm pregnant. What are you?" Stared at her older friend. "And what do you think to do?" "Jack does not seem to need me," she replied with a sigh. "So there is only one way out." "Have you thought about it? There may not be any consequences to this after all." "Well, what else can I do?" Lucy asked in a tragic voice. "I have other plans now, and the child doesn't fit into them." "Oh, I don't know," shook her head. "Well, but Jack knows." "And will not know. At least, I hope so." Lucy looked at her friend, and she nodded. Of course. Don't worry, I'm grave. But perhaps you should explain yourself. What if Jack finds out and—" "Oh no," Lucy exclaimed. "He'll think I'm trying to keep him away. He won't." "Suit yourself." Catherine shrugged her shoulders. "Do not worry, I will not tell him anything." Despite the fact that Catherine generously offered herself as a vest, Jack was in no hurry to take advantage of her offer. He'd heard a lot from guys about her liberation, but only shrugged it off. Jack had always assumed that where there was looseness, there was availability, as a rule. Besides, he just vitally needed to be alone and think about how to move on with his life. "Maybe I should go to the Capitol with Lucy, since she's invited me," came a reckless thought. "I don't care what Catherine said. After all, for his love must fight." And what did I do? That's right away, pause up. As soon as something came out not according to my will, and he and Lucy had not parted well at their last meeting, what was her fault with him? For wanting to arrange her life the way she wanted? "You're an idiot, Jack," he said to himself and laughed softly. It was decided. Today he would apologize to Lucy and they would decide how to move on. Now moving to Washington no longer seemed unrealistic to Jack, much less terrible. Jack walked out of the car service center and saw Catherine. She was wearing a bright blue mini dress and shoes with such high heels that Jack was seriously afraid she might fall off. He'd have to pick her up. "Hello," Catherine purred. "Hi, if you're not kidding," Jack grinned, realizing that this dark redhead had come to seduce him. "No, I'm not kidding," the girl replied seriously. "There's something I need to tell you." "I'm all ears," he nodded. "Well, not here. Why don't we go to the park? Or in a bar?" "Catherine, to be honest, I'm very tired," Jack said, not very kindly. "If you really have something to say, let's talk in the car. I can even give you a ride." "Okay, let's do it in the car," Catherine agreed. "Well, what did you want to tell me?" Jack asked impatiently when they got into the car. "Lucy is pregnant," Catherine stated bluntly. "Lucy, what?" "You heard the whole thing yourself." "And what?" "What? What is she going to do? What do you think?" Jack didn't think anything, but Catherine's words suggested only one answer. "Did she tell you that herself?" he asked in a wooden voice. "Well, of course she did. But it's... No, she won't do it." "Well, it's her life, isn't it?" "But it's my baby too." "What do you want from me?" Catherine asked with a sigh. "Couldn't you talk her out of it?" "Jack, don't you think I've tried?" "Well, and then, don't you think this is just about you too?" "Yes, of course it is. I'm sorry." "It's all right," she waved her hand. Looking at Jack, Catherine noted that in his soul was boiling volcano and envied Lucy with all her soul. Frankly speaking, no one had ever loved her like that. "Well, nothing. We'll see whose will take it." "Jack, don't get so hot," Catherine said. "Go and see Lucy. And if she tells you about it, it means that all is not lost and everything will be fine." "And if she doesn't?" Jack asked in a low voice. "Why get yourself worked up?" she smiled. "That's right too," he smiled sadly back. "Thank you, Catherine." "You're welcome." "Just Jack, keep in mind, I didn't tell you anything." "Whatever you say." "So, you need a ride?" "No, thanks. I'm going the other way." Ekaterina refused the offer, got out of the car, and seductively swaying her hips, rushed in the direction of the store. For about 10 minutes, Jack sat in the car with his head resting on the headrest. She wasn't, he said aloud, and then he started the car and drove to the nearest payphone. They met in the park. "Lucy, are you feeling all right? You don't look so good." Jack stood waiting for a reply. The fate of 3 people depended on it. "It's nothing." The girl smiled weakly, and everything rebelled in his soul. "Nonsense. She means to say that our child is nothing. revolted Jack to himself, and Lucy, as if nothing had happened, said, "It's just that I've been doing a lot of studying lately. I'm going to Washington after all." Oh, how Jack wanted to say he was ready to go to Washington with her. Yeah, but a baby? What school for now? Only Lucy's the one who's interested in her. And then she'd have a career. Well, Jack, he's got his pride. Let her go back to her Washington, D.C. if that's what she wants, and he can find himself another girl. Lucy Stone is not the end of the line. Have you decided where you're going to go? Jack asked, more just to ask something. He was in pain. But you've got to keep up that goddamn good work. Yes, the girl nodded. To Plekhanov. I'll study the basics of commerce. I'll be a businesswoman. Well, good luck. Jack smiled strangely. Lucy, I have a very important order tomorrow. Come on, I'll walk you out. No, she shook her head. You go if you need to, and I'll stay a little longer. Well, see for yourself. Jack shrugged and left. Lucy sat on the bench and watched him walk away thoughtfully, out of her life. Meanwhile, Jack walked over to Catherine's house and rang the doorbell of apartment number 15 to see if she was home. To his relief, there were quick footsteps and the door opened. "Can I come in?" Jack asked hesitantly. Catherine was wearing a very racy lace negligee. The smell of perfume was mind-blowing. It was as if she had been waiting for him. "I knew you would come," smiled seductively Catherine. "Come in. Mommy, I have something to tell you." God knows, Lucy was worth a lot of effort to talk to her mother on the subject. But she knew that Mom will certainly listen and help. "I'm listening," she smiled encouragingly. Her mother's kind smile gave her confidence. "Mom, God, how hard it is, as it turns out, but it has to be. Mom, anyway, I have." Lucy did not finish because a traitorous lump rose across her throat and tears spurted from her eyes. Well, cry. You'll feel better," Katie said, stroking her shoulders and head and kissing her hair. "What's the time limit? Did you know?" Lucy sobbed. "No, of course not," smiled her mother, not immediately realizing she was crying too. A hunch. Well, and don't underestimate a mother's heart. "What did you decide?" "Mom, I'm not ready for this yet." "Well, really, I have other plans." "Well, not ready is not ready," Katie said thoughtfully. "I knew you'd say that. The question is, are you ready for the consequences, possibly irreversible?" "Do you know what I mean?" "I do," Lucy nodded. Lucy shone at the prom, but she didn't care about the envious glances of her classmates. "Shall we dance?" Billy Walker, a near academic and intellectual, held out his hand to her with a smile. "Let's dance," she nodded, and the now former classmates twirled to the timeless hit song Nancy. "You're simply charming today," complimented a classmate. Billy, unlike the rest of the classmates, knew how to compliment, and he had a way with words too. "Thank you," Lucy smiled, but God only knew how much sadness and longing was behind that smile. "What are your plans for life?" Billy asked. "Plekhanov Commercial University," she grinned. "Fuck you. Are you seriously thinking of going to the capital?" "Seriously," Lucy confirmed. "I'm going to Harvard." "Good for you," she said approvingly. "Lucy?" "Oh, what?" "You know, I've always liked you." There, I said it. Lucy didn't know what to say to that. She was flattered, of course, to be liked by such a promising fellow, but he's not Jack. "Well, it's a pleasure," she said. "Can I buy you a nice skin?" Billy got up his nerve. "And where do you propose to drink this divine beverage?" "At my house," he winked. "What about?" "No, it's nothing like that," Billy said, embarrassed. Sorry, now it was Lucy's turn to be embarrassed. Surely this guy wouldn't allow himself anything extra. "Come on, it's okay," Billy reassured her. "So what about my proposal?" "Why not?" She suddenly agreed. "Well, that's great," rejoiced classmate and led Lucy to the exit. "Look, our princess has gone wild," commented Leslie, pushing Mallory to the side. "You think there's going to be anything in it?" She grinned. "Billy's a gentleman. I don't think he's going to comfort our abandoned girl." And the girls laughed together. "Come in," Billy said hospitably, letting Lucy into the apartment. "My parents, as you understand, are gone, and my sister hasn't lived with us for a long time, so we won't be interrupted. Don't look at me like that." but come into the kitchen. The girl was embarrassed again. She didn't recognize herself. Sit down wherever you like. Lucy obediently sat down, and Billy got the promised gin, cut up some fruit and cheese, and the young people began their impromptu feast. They chatted about everything in the world, and Lucy realized that Billy was a man who was close to her in spirit. Why didn't I notice him before? She thought, laughing at another witty joke from this wonderful guy. Billy is so cool. They talked until morning, and then Billy suggested that Lucy sleep at his place. No, I'd rather call a cab, she refused. The next day, Billy called Lucy. Maybe we could sit in a cafe. In the guy's voice, he could guess the hope that she would agree. In fact, the genuine interest in her person was evident. Wow, she said. And where did we get the money for the cafe? And however, what do I care? The main thing, the wedge with the wedge beats out. And let him not be Jack. I don't care. But Billy can be a good, trustworthy friend. Well, we'll see. Lucy, why don't we go together? Billy said, I won't take any liberties. We'll just stick together. I'll be a true friend to you. She probably looked incredibly stupid at that moment because Billy added with a smile, now you're baffling me. Meanwhile, it's simple. We're supposed to help each other out as extemporal Hicks. How about this version? Version? Lucy asked, and they laughed together. It's been 10 years, Catherine. This cannot go on, said Jack, getting out from under the blanket. Let's get a divorce. Well, it's pretty obvious that we're strangers to each other. We don't have children, so it won't be a problem. And do not dream. Cut off, Catherine. Well, what did not suit you? I am not satisfied with everything. You do not love me, so what keeps you next to me? Status, smiled his wife. Status, Jack mocked. What kind of status? Well, what is it? Catherine snorted. The status of a married woman. Can't your boyfriend guarantee you that status? If she was embarrassed, it was only for a few seconds. But it was not in Catherine's nature to be embarrassed. And he has his own status, she shrugged. Also a married man? With a chuckle asked the husband. No, shook his head Catherine. The status of a playboy, which if and married, then in about 5 years. On some 25-year-old doll. You guys are really something. Come on, you're good. So why are we getting divorced? Because we've all had our own lives for a long time, Jack said with a sigh. Why are you talking about divorce? Catherine squinted at him. Did you bring what? No, nothing, she muttered. And still? I said nothing. Well, it's nothing, Jack said in a conciliatory tone. What are you yelling about this early in the morning? Do you mean it's coffee? The woman in a strict suit sitting in the armchair said angrily. But Lucy Viktorovna, whispered the young secretary, you always drank it. Really? She asked wryly. Where's all that sugar? Go and remake it. Yes, Lucy Viktorovna. The secretary Emma quietly went out, and Lucy quietly swore. In fact, she never allowed herself to get angry at the employees of her firm. But this day, she had everything out of her hands. And all because of the upcoming trip to the historical homeland, be damned. But the thing is that only this trip will help Lucy to solve the urgent problem. She had no other options. And how rosy everything seemed when she and Billy, two provincials, who decided to conquer the capital by all means, got off the train. Where does Washington begin? Of course with the square, or, as it is called, the square of 3 stations. From the streams of people rushing here and there, Lucy's eyes were blurred, but she immediately realized that this city was for her. Lucy Stone would surely conquer the city she had dreamed of since 9th grade. This city attracted Lucy like a magnet, and it was love at first sight. Aren't you scared? Billy asked. Why should I be? She exclaimed bravura. It's a city of opportunity and money, and it will be ours, you'll see. You're so fast, smiled the classmate. And nothing is fast, objected the classmate. I think if you want to achieve something, you need to tune into it now. Although I had my mind set back in high school. Did you? Me too. Whoever is going to conquer the capital must be stronger than the capital. There's a reason they say that Washington never cares. So the sooner a person is strong, the easier it is to succeed and seize opportunities, if there are any. There are opportunities, Lucy said excitedly. The important thing is to see them. But you and I now have only one opportunity to successfully enter and, as the comrade said, to study, study, and study again. Of course, but now I'm starving. Would you like some pies? She offered. Meat and fish. Grandma baked them. I wouldn't say no to Betty's pies, smiled Billy. The young people found a vacant bench and sat down on it, eating pies and chatting merrily. They made the most incredible plans, and Lucy thought, I was right to bet on Billy. He's smart, he's not lazy, but unlike Jack, he wants more out of life than to live in their hometown. I just wish I didn't love him. Ah, to hell with love. It's a pain in the ass. Shortly before she left, she'd heard a rumor that Jack was visiting Catherine. Lucy felt a pang of jealousy, but only for a second. The girl was so absorbed in the forthcoming departure that everything else seemed to her a mere nonsense. After all, Lucy was going to Washington, and by the way, not alone, but in the company of an ambitious guy. After they had eaten, they got up from the bench and suddenly, out of nowhere, a gypsy woman in colorful clothes appeared. Gouge your hand, the gold-toothed swarthy woman said cheekily. You'll be fine, Lucy said impolitely. Why so rude, pretty girl? Don't you want to know what's going to happen? I don't want to know. I'll tell you anyway, said the gypsy. You'll be together, but you're not going to be together. Each of you has your own destiny, but it won't be soon. Do you have everything? The girl asked. No, not everything. The gold-toothed one grinned. It won't be easy for you. Go on, Billy intervened. Do you want me to gouge the handle? Did we ask you to? The gypsy woman left without a word, and Lucy said, They said they hang around here in packs, but we only got one. Fuck it, Billy said. We got dorms to get settled in. We like to be in one, but we're not supposed to. It's okay, Lucy said. We'll see each other. I wonder where the bus stop is. Who knows? Come on, let's go look. They went to look for a cab, trolley bus, or streetcar stop. And then a fat man in shorts and a Hawaiian shirt blocked their way. Cab, cheap, said the man. Why? Can't we really? Lucy turned to her companion. We don't know the city. And what do I mean? The cab driver rejoiced. Lucy, can I talk to you? Billy asked quietly and turned to the man. Wait, we'll consult. The bomber made a disgruntled face, but remained looming nearby. The hope of getting customers who didn't know the town was shaken. But everyone knows that it's the last to die. Lucy, Billy ranted. What's the matter with you? Every fool knows they're driving passengers around town on purpose to make more money. Billy, Lucy begged. Honestly, I'm so tired. Lucy, he slapped himself on the forehead. There's a subway here. There really is. Let's find the subway and rest in the car. That's a great idea. The subway was an embarrassment. Before entering the carriage, they were horrified to discover they had no money. It's the gypsy, Lucy said in a tragic voice. There's no one else. That's understandable. What should we do? The girl wailed. Let's go to the police, said Billy. Let them look for this gypsy. But a visit to the police did not yield anything. You're not the first. You're not the last, smirked the policeman. You have to look after your goods yourselves. After all, every guest here is a complaint. This is, if you like, a baptism of fire for provincials. You can consider yourself past it. Thank you for that, Lucy said ironically. You're welcome, nodded the law enforcement officer. Welcome to the capital. The classmates walked out of the police station with their heads down. Billy slipped his hand into his pocket and fumbled for a piece of paper. When he pulled it out into the light of day, he couldn't believe his eyes. We're alive, exclaimed the boy. Maybe it's enough to stay with some old lady. How long will it last? Lucy grinned sadly. And besides, we're minors. Would anyone want to do business with us? Well, we don't have a choice. They won't hit us head on. Where are we gonna find this old lady? She asked skeptically. It's a train station, baby, Billy answered, mimicking an American action hero. I think there's bound to be an old lady here. Billy was right. Soon the young conquerors of the capital came upon a short, plump old woman. In the hands of the old woman was a sign with the inscription, "Rent a house for daily rent. Inexpensive." What do you want, young people? The grandmother smiled amiably. We'd like to rent, Billy said timidly. How much will it cost? How much would you give? she asked cheerfully. We have. Here. The guy took $100 bill out of his pocket, and the old woman, grinning, stated, I see. Another of Rosita's victims. The young men, assuming that Rosita was none other than a gypsy, nodded synchronously. That's it, boys, said the grandmother decisively. Let's go to my place. Come on, I won't take any money. Billy and Lucy looked at each other hesitantly, and the old woman laughed. Let's go already. I don't bite. And I don't eat teenagers because I prefer potatoes with a cutlet or a plate of good borscht. Make yourself comfortable, invited Julia, as the old woman was called. Here we are together, Lucy said with a laugh as they entered the room reserved for guests. Together? Billy asked, looking intently into her eyes. Together, the girl whispered, and their lips met. During the entrance exams, the applicants lived with Julia Borisovna. They helped the elderly woman with household chores around the corner and ate at the common table. It was great, thought Lucy with nostalgia. By the way, with this kindest old woman Lucy communicated to this day. It so happened that as freshman students they became parents of an adorable son, Mickey. Billy decided to work part-time to provide for his family. Lucy didn't want to hear about a sabbatical or a transfer to a part-time program, so they offered Julia to babysit for a reasonable fee. Are you trying to insult me? She shook her head reproachfully. I would love to babysit your boy. You will help us a lot, the young parents exclaimed with glee. So they lived in the family block of the university, studying and raising the baby. Billy was madly in love with Lucy, but she, alas, could not reciprocate. Despite the fact that Jack had betrayed her with her best friend, Lucy's heart still belonged to him. And she couldn't help it though. God knows she tried. But the heart couldn't help itself. Unfortunately, Lucy thought of a well-known saying. And then she met a man who, as it seemed to Lucy, managed to displace Jack from her heart. This man turned out to be a criminal mastermind nicknamed Metal in the world Barry. Then Lucy, having graduated from the institute, got a job as an administrator in a restaurant. That night, Barry came in for dinner. Come here, he called Lucy rather unceremoniously and gestured for her to sit down. We're not allowed to sit with customers, she smiled sternly. Come on, he waved his hand. Your boss is a good friend of mine. You're probably new to the place, aren't you? Yes. Then let me introduce myself as Barry. A pretty girl like you can just say Barry. And I see your name is Lucy, he said, looking at the name tag. Come on, sit down. There's no truth in feet. And yet I'll stand, Lucy declined the offer. Suit yourself. Did you want something? She asked politely. Aha, smiled Riley, undressing her with his gaze. To invite you to the sauna. What? Lucy exclaimed. Just kidding, Barry said conciliatingly. A lice test. Consider yourself passed. Well, of course I did, she mumbled, and then added louder. By the way, I'm married. So what of it? Barry snorted. A husband's not a wall. I noticed you a week ago, and I wanted to get to know you better. I love natural blondes. Lucy smiled involuntarily. At university, many people suspected her of dyeing her hair. Her classmates often looked closely at her hair to see if the roots had grown out, and if they didn't see what they were looking for, they were disappointed. You're natural, am I right? Natural, Lucy confirmed. I've got a good eye, Barry said, clearly pleased with himself. I'm sure you do, Lucy thought, and suddenly realized with amazement that she was attracted to this man. But what was it? Barry was far from handsome, obviously wealthy, but that wasn't the point. He just had charisma and something else that Lucy couldn't define. What time do you work till, Lucy? He asked. 11 o'clock. Here's the thing, Lucy, Barry said. The time is 10 to 11. I think vodka will get over it if you work 10 minutes less today. Let's go. I'll take care of it. Where are we going? Lucy asked in amazement. Don't be afraid, said Barry, suddenly good-natured. I'll just give you a ride home. I promise not to bother you. Tonight. The girl blushed. To her surprise, she suddenly realized she wouldn't mind. You're a married woman, she reasoned to herself. You have a son. But no amount of rationalizing was helping. Lucy already knew what was coming. She was grateful to Billy for everything, of course, but she was a young woman who had no business living without love and passion. The kind that would take her breath away. Like with Jack, even though Lucy was very young. But Jack was far away and he was married to someone she truly thought of as a friend. Now Lucy understood why Catherine had told her that if Jack loved her, he would run to the ends of the earth for her. She had her eye on Jack herself. He didn't? No way. He just couldn't make up his mind. Jack didn't know anything about the baby, and Lucy's pride got the better of her. Meanwhile, Jack had a right to know he was going to be a father. Anyway, it was a bit of a mess. And then some. We don't know what Catherine said to Jack. The secretary came in with a new batch of coffee. "Lucy Viktorovna, your coffee," said the girl timidly. "Thank you very much," she replied. "I'm sorry I snapped at you. It's just, never mind." "It's okay, Lucy." The receptionist walked out and, sighing, took her place in the reception area. There were rumors around the office that the boss was in trouble with the criminal element. That was probably why she was so agitated. Meanwhile, Lucy continued to reminisce. That night, Lucy went out with Barry. Barry was the owner of an expensive and fancy restaurant where they actually went. "Aren't you hungry?" Barry asked. Lucy shook her head with a smile, and the restaurant owner went to the bar and took out a bottle of expensive Spanish wine. "Let's drink to getting to know each other," he said. "Let me get some fruit." This man had nothing in common with the swaggering and a little boorish restaurant visitor, and Lucy was very pleased to see him like that. They drank and talked until Lucy looked at her watch. Crest, it was 1:30. Billy must be going crazy, and Mickey's not sleeping well without her. "Is everything all right?" Barry asked, noticing the frightened look on her face. "Everything is fine," Lucy repeated like a robot, "except that my husband and son are waiting for me." "You have a son?" Barry asked, a note of surprise in his voice. "Yes," she answered simply. "Does that surprise you?" "No," Barry shrugged. "It's just that you're so young, so slim. I was only 18 when I had the baby. That's just the way it is." "I see." When they pulled up to the Walker's house, there was a light in the window. Lucy felt like an asshole. She reached for the door handle, but Barry wrapped his arms around her and kissed her. "Barry, don't," the young woman whispered desperately. "Billy might see us through the window." "He won't," he whispered back, turning off the interior lights. "Barry, I'm begging you, stop it." Okay. Barry reluctantly released Lucy from his embrace and asked, "When will I see you? Can you make it tomorrow?" "I guess so," she nodded. Billy would be at work, Mickey at daycare, so there was no obstacle to meeting. "Are you awake?" Lucy asked, trying to be casual. "I'm awake," Billy replied succinctly. "Is there anything you want to tell me?" "Should I?" "Lucy, you know how I feel about you, but that doesn't mean I'm willing to settle for handouts." "Billy." "Wait." Her husband gestured for her to stop. "Anyway, Lucy, if you've got someone in your life that you're in love with, well, I won't get in the way." On a sudden impulse, Lucy threw herself on her husband's neck and cried, "My God, Billy, you're such a good man. I'm really grateful to you for these years, but this is stronger than I am. I can't be without this man. I fell in love like a girl." "It's all right," Billy said. "It's all right. You're loved. You're loved." "Well, isn't that wonderful?" "Yes," Lucy laughed through her tears. "That's wonderful. And I wish you to find your happiness." "Thank you," whispered the husband, thinking that in the near future it is unlikely to be possible. After the divorce proceedings, the now ex-spouses went to a cafe not far from the registry office. They drank a bottle of cold and very tasty champagne, after which they wished each other happiness and solemnly swore to remain friends. The apartment where the Walker family lived was left to Lucy and Mickey. Billy, like a real man, decided not to stoop to bartering. "I'll earn for a new one," he said to his ex-wife. "Thank God I can afford it, and you and Mickey will be the first guests at the housewarming party." "Deal," she laughed. Besides, Billy said not to worry about the mortgage. He's been making the payments and he'll keep making them. "Billy, what are you talking about?" Lucy exclaimed. "It's unnecessary. Thank God I'm working." No, I can't accept a gift like that from you." "Well, I respect your decision," he nodded. "But give me your word. If you have any trouble paying, don't hesitate to contact me." "Okay," Lucy laughed. She arrived home in the most elated mood. John with Barry was at its zenith, and the young woman was glowing with happiness. Her co-workers were jealous of Lucy. But unlike her classmates, they didn't think to be sarcastic. "Lucky you, Lucy," said Nancy, the manager. "You've got the man for the job." "Can't complain," she smiled. Kathy, on the other hand, disapproved of her daughter's divorce. "You were like a stone wall behind Billy," her mother said, when Lucy called her to tell her about the divorce. "There's a new wall on my horizon," Lucy parried, "and enough about that. The important thing is that I'm happy." "And who is he?" "Barry's a businessman." "You mean a peddler?" "Mom, this is the 21st century." "Well, what the hell kind of peddler?" "So he's a gangster," Katie summarized. "Mom, I told you, Barry is a respectable businessman." Lucy was beginning to get a little agitated, but her mother seemed unimpressed. "Oh, Lucy, Lucy, Lucy," she grinned. "Do you think that we there in the periphery are completely out of touch with life? Nowadays, every respectable businessman is an ex-gangster, or not." "My man is not far from the truth," Lucy thought, but she's been in the thick of it herself. When Lucy was born, Naomi was nearly 40, so at the time of her daughter's divorce, she was in her 60s. However, despite her advanced age, Kathy was more competent in such matters than other young people. "Well, we're all talking about me." Lucy hurried to close the slippery subject. "How are you?" "The same old, but Grandma's upset that you don't call her much." "When I have time, I'll be there. But there's no time to call. I'm at work all day long, like a squirrel in a wheel. I don't have time to call." "Washington has changed you a lot," Katie said. "You weren't exactly sentimental before, and now." "How's Dad?" "Oh, I forgot. He just had a baby. You have a little brother now. They named him Gob." "Fuck you. Natalie didn't want to have a baby." "Well, Mother snorted. She didn't want to, but she changed her mind. We've lived for ourselves, and she'll be fine. Betty is over the moon." "Well, I see," Lucy replied, suddenly feeling a pang of jealousy. "Say hello to everyone." Barry had promised to be there at 9, which meant she had an hour and a half. Her lover had hinted that it would be a special evening, and she wanted to look the part. Mickey was visiting Billy. Lucy took a quick bath and spritzed her body with iris-scented lotion. "Okay, now for the outfit." The young woman opened her closet and decided that a closed black dress made of thick silk, emphasizing a thin waist and steep hips, was just right. A string of pearls emphasized the nobility of the dress and effectively shaded her silky blonde hair. It was September, and Lucy threw on a gray velvet coat, put on her favorite high stiletto boots made of fine black suede, and looking at herself in the mirror, was satisfied. Pretty damn good. She winked to herself and, sprinkling herself with her favorite French perfume, went out into the street, where Barry's Mercedes was already waiting for her. "You look divine," he said admiringly. "I tried," Lucy sang. That evening, Barry gave her a restaurant. At first, Lucy thought he was joking, but after Barry showed her the paperwork, the young woman went into a stupor, in a good way. Lucy really wanted to own her own business, but where to start? Billy, of course, was earning well and Lucy was working, but they had a mortgage and a car loan. And your own business is freedom and virtually unlimited financial opportunities. Unless, of course, you're lazy. "How do you like my present?" Barry asked with a smile. "It's a great present," exclaimed Lucy. "I couldn't have dreamed of such a thing." "But," she hesitated. "What's the matter?" "Can I do it?" "I think you'll manage," smiled encouragingly at her lover. "You're my smart girl. And also," Barry stopped talking and, taking Lucy's hand in his, said, "This is my wedding present to you. Sanya, will you marry me?" "But we've only known each other for a month," she whispered. "Does it matter when two people love each other?" "Probably not," Lucy answered, thinking, and then she remembered Jack. They'd been dating for a year and a half, and then what? And here it's only a month. But on the other hand, she had married the nice but unloved Billy and lived with him for a year. A good one at that. "I think so too." Barry's voice interrupted her musings. "God, and I'm still doubting it. It really doesn't matter. I'll be with the man I love, who will also fulfill my long-held dream of becoming a businesswoman." "Lucy, hello? Where are you?" "Here with you," she nodded. "So how about my proposal?" "I'm in." "Well, that's great," Barry said with a satisfied smile, pulling out of his tweed jacket pocket a wine-colored velvet box with intricate monograms. "An original box," Lucy remarked. "What a box," laughed the new groom. Look inside. The young woman opened the box and gasped. Wow, it's just impossible to take your eyes off it. The ring was indeed marvelous. In the center of the composition shone and shimmered a blue diamond of such a size that a skeptic would certainly doubt its authenticity. But fake was not Barry's thing. The intricate framing of white gold and tiny diamonds made the ring look like a work of art. "Try it on," Barry said with tenderness in his voice. The wedding of the owner of one of the capital's most prominent restaurateurs was held at the highest level. The party was, of course, at Barry's restaurant. "Now I'm your business lady," she bragged to her parents. "Barry gave me the restaurant. What can I say?" Victor exclaimed. "Good for you." Katie just shook her head. This is not good, she thought. "Mom, why are you so sad?" The happy bride called out to her. "Oh, come on," Kathy waved her hand. "Everything will be all right," Lucy exclaimed cheerfully. "Oh, I wish to God I'd said what I said," muttered her mother, adding, "Lucy, you should visit your grandmother. She's not feeling well and she's always asking about you." "Barry and I will definitely visit Grandma," Lucy promised. The young woman couldn't fulfill her promise as she wanted to. The restaurant took up almost all her time, but Lucy did not grumble. At last, she had the opportunity to realize the picture that Lucy had once outlined to Jack, either jokingly or seriously. She arrives in her hometown in a luxury foreign car in the image of a Hollywood diva, wearing the luxurious silk headscarf and large glasses Foxy. A luxury foreign car, namely a silver BMW, was available. Behind the headscarf, glasses, and of course, a dress emphasizing a beautiful figure, the matter will not be either. All in all, Jack would have to fall at her feet. Jack again, and they could be happy, very happy, if they had explained themselves and reached a compromise. But they didn't, so Lucy forbade herself even to think of him. But to forbid that forbade, but the call of the heart no, no, yes, and gave himself to no. The young woman noted with annoyance that she could not forget her first love. "I am strong, I can cope," she said to herself, and she did. Lucy worked tirelessly, and it was the best cure for unnecessary nostalgia. And then the nightmare began. 3 years after the wedding, Lucy was widowed. The official story was that Barry had been eliminated by a competitor. The grief-stricken widow couldn't believe it was happening to her. But as it turned out, this was just the beginning. In one, by no means beautiful day to Lucy in the office came two strong young men of repulsive appearance. "Hello, beautiful," one of them, dressed in a bright red sweatshirt and jeans, greeted her with a swagger. "Hello," Lucy nodded. "Do we know each other?" "No, but we're about to," the other one replied with an equally vulgar grin. He was wearing a tracksuit. "When we get to know each other, then we'll go back to you," she said stiffly. "Don't be rude to us." Red Hoodie mumbled. "Do you know you owe us 5 lemons?" "What's what?" asked the lady of the office with a grin. "And you do not crack anything?" "No, she doesn't understand." He waved his hands, and the athlete angrily muttered, "She will understand," and added mockingly, So, lady, the whole thing is that your late husband owed us 5 million. The sum, not a big one. So just like that, we will not give it up." "They're not kidding," Lucy thought with horror and pinched her ear. This superstitious gesture did not escape the uninvited guests, and the guy in the sweatshirt chuckled. "Alas and beautiful, you are awake. Although I sleep with you right now. But first things first, airplanes. Anyway, that's it, sweetheart. As true gentlemen, we're giving you 2 weeks back to find the money. Alternatively, you can give us the restaurant." "The restaurant costs 3 times as much," she grinned unfunnily. "Well, probably not more expensive than life," his buddy remarked good-naturedly, and Lucy turned pale. Yes, you got that right. If there's no money, neither you nor your puppy will be well off." The business lady was furious. God forbid one hair should fall off Mickey's head. She'd tear those clowns apart with her own hands. But that's just emotion, isn't it? Where on earth is she going to find $5 million? Take out a loan from the bank? Who's gonna approve it? It's worth a try, though. We could try to sell some jewelry, but that would take time. And where's the guarantee that someone will buy them for their real value? We could sell the restaurant. Yeah, in 2 weeks, unless it's for next to nothing. By the way, as the sportswear aficionado rightly pointed out, not worth more than life. And not just hers, but her son's. She wouldn't risk Mickey's life. What? You can see from the face that there are some considerations, the sportsman noted with satisfaction. Lucy was scared, but she wouldn't be her if she showed those jerks her fear. Quite right, the young woman replied with a strained smile. There are considerations indeed, but I'd like to think them over without witnesses. Of course, said the sportsman in a courteous voice. One more thing, said the red hoodie with an instructive index finger raised upward. I hope you realize that we will not tolerate law enforcement interference. I understand, Lucy nodded. The visitors left the office and Lucy sat down at the table and wrapped her arms around her head. $5 million. It was an unaffordable sum for her. Stop complaining, she said to herself. We must act. And Lucy began to act. The next day, the young business lady went to the bank, but all she could offer, there was $1 million on the security of the restaurant. Lucy had no choice but to accept something. The next step was the pawn shop. If you want to sell quickly, it'll be half the price, the appraiser shrugged. So what's the bottom line? When he named the amount she could count him on, the young woman did not know whether to cry or laugh. Yes, it's not even twice, but 3 times cheaper. No, this option does not suit me, shook her head Lucy. Well, and you can sell in 2 weeks at least part of the jewelry. Certainly not for the cents you just told me. In principle, yes, the appraiser nodded. But you see, that's the theory of probability. Well, thanks for that, she sighed. There were only 4 days left until X Day, and Lucy was not herself. She was in her office preparing a report for the IRS when Katie called. Lucy, Grandma's really bad, her mother said. She's afraid she's going to die without ever seeing you. Oh God, just what I need. The young woman thought and slid from her chair to the floor in exhaustion. How long had it been since she'd seen her grandmother, if she didn't count the Skype conversation? 4 years. Crazy. That's a long time. And Grandma's still waiting. What's Skype got to do with it? Lucy, can you hear me? Katie called out, and she realized that it wasn't the first time her mother had interrupted her. I realize you're busy, but daughter, there are more valuable things in this world than social standing and material possessions. Mother is getting old if she talks about eternal values, Lucy thought absently. Lucy, can you hear me? Her mother continued to call out. Yes, she answered with a sigh. Okay, Mom, I will. After talking to her mother, Lucy took up her report again, but not 5 minutes later, the phone rang again. Hello, Lucy, said a voice, and after a couple of seconds, the young woman realized who it belonged to. It was Red Hoodie. Hello. It seems that he and the athlete called Lucy their names, but she didn't remember them. Well, the hell with them. They're not important birds. Don't bother yourself, beautiful, said the caller with a nasty laugh. You don't need our names, and you're good. You took out a loan, went to the pawn shop. Well done, not sitting idly by. So I got a little present for you. We'll defer the payment. Yeah, we can be generous too, so we're willing to make a concession. We'll give you another week. Thank you, Lucy replied with bitter irony. You're welcome, he said, as if it were nothing. Good day, beautiful. Having finished with the report, Lucy decided to drink coffee. Suddenly, she realized that something was bothering her, and it was something that would solve the main problem. But what was it, and what brought Lucy to this thought? The young woman mentally scrolled in her memory phone conversations with her mother and red sweatshirt, and finally realized what the matter was. Her tormentor was talking about the gift. Katie was talking about her grandmother. I'll get you a gift deed so you don't have to wait 6 months. Beatty's words came to mind. So these bandits know how to be generous, thought Lucy ironically. So maybe they'll wait until I sell Grandma's apartment. Mom, how far are we going to go? Mickey asked, getting into the car. Far, son, nodded Lucy. We're going to Grandma's, and I'm going to see Grandma in person, the boy said excitedly. Yes, smiled the mother, and she immediately became sad. Only now Lucy realized what she had deprived Mickey of all these years. And that was far from all of it. Great. Lucy's nerves were at breaking point. The worries, the sleepless nights, and 6 hours of driving had taken their toll. She and her son got out of the car, and Lucy almost knocked down a man coming out of the entrance. The young woman entered the apartment where her childhood had passed, and waving off her mother's embrace asked, "What's up with Grandma?" "Everything is bad, Lucy. She can barely walk, and for the last few days she can't get out of bed." "I see. You must be tired." "I'm not without it." "Well, go get some sleep." "Yes, I think I will," Lucy said with a yawn and envied her son, who was already exploring his grandmother's apartment. But before she could lie down, her father called. "Lucy, grandmother is waiting for you," he said sadly. "But I warn you right away, she is embarrassed that she urinated under herself." And that's when Lucy's nerves finally gave out. Peeing on herself, she laughed hysterically. Let her keep peeing on herself. Or does Granny think I've come to take the pots out for her? She shouldn't. "Lucy, what are you doing?" Victor was stunned. "I'm not her babysitter," she yelled into the phone, not the least bit embarrassed by the elderly mother, not to mention her son. "And anyway, I came for the inheritance." With that, Lucy nervously pressed the disconnect button and disconnected. Katie looked at her daughter stunned. "Lucy, are you all right in your head?" she asked quietly. Lucy shook her head and sobbed bitterly against her mother's chest. "Didn't you think to ask them for the receipts or any proof that Barry, God rest his soul, owed them anything?" Katie asked in amazement 20 minutes later, when her daughter, having drunk some valerian, had suddenly collapsed in her arms and was writhing like a contented kitten. "No," Lucy answered sadly. "Oh, you? And where has my clever Lucy gone?" "She was, but she's all gone," she sighed. "Oh, my mother sighed. If you're all out at 28, what will happen to you when you're my age?" Lucy shrugged her shoulders with a smile. "How sleepy I am," she said, yawning deliciously. "Go to sleep." "It's embarrassing for Daddy," Lucy said sadly. "I don't really need my grandmother's apartment. I was just nervous, and my father got in the way, so I said some nonsense." "Go to bed," Katie told her with tenderness in her voice. "Don't worry, I'll call him and explain everything." The next day, her father came with Natalie, who, after the birth of their firstborn, had become a regular Natalie, and Lucy suspected that she liked Natalie better than Natalie. "Daddy, I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't know what I was saying at that moment. It's just..." Victor gestured to his daughter and said, "I already know everything. And as your mother also think, something here is not right. It looks like a raid, or alternatively, these guys are just crooks looking to cash in on your grief. Anyway, it's worth looking into." Jack's car service has long since finished work, but its owner was not in a hurry to go home. After yesterday's conversation with Catherine, it was as if something was broken in him. And today, Jack had a dream about Lucy. They say that Lucy had become a respectable business lady, but in his dream, she was still the same young girl whom Jack had loved with all his soul more than 10 years ago. And Lucy was also defenseless. "Is Lucy defenseless?" grinned Jack. There was a knock at the door. "Come in," he said tiredly. Archie, who was his companion, came in. "Why don't you answer the phone?" he exclaimed. "Why are you so frantic?" Jack asked instead of answering. "Packham, I'm going to tell you something." "Don't worry." "I don't think so," he grinned. "I think it's you who's worried. Will you take me as a witness?" "You bet I will." This morning, Lucy woke up with the feeling that at last everything was going to be all right. There would be no more tossing and turning, no more suffering, and no more searching for herself, because she had already found herself. "I belong here," Lucy thought. "It is not without reason that they say that where one is born, there one is fit for purpose." She came out of the bathroom humming and went to the kitchen for a nice cup of coffee. Her mother had always been good at it. The doorbell rang. Who could it be? Katie mumbled perplexedly and went to open the door. Her mother returned about 5 minutes later with a huge basket of flowers. You have an admirer?" Lucy smiled slyly. "More like you," Katie parried. "The courier was asking about you." "No way," said her daughter incredulously. Well, and I think there's a note here too." 8 o'clock at our place. She read the message, written in familiar handwriting, and put it in her pocket. "What's it say?" her mother inquired. "Nothing," shrugged her shoulders. "Mammy, will I go away for a while tonight?" "Are you asking me?" The old woman jumped. "I remember when you decided to go to Washington, you could only be stopped by a tank." "I did," Lucy smiled. In the afternoon, Lucy visited her grandmother with her mother and Mickey. "You're doing very well today," Katie said approvingly. "And for good reason," smiled Betty, looking at Lucy. Tears welled up in the young woman's eyes, and she threw her arms around her grandmother, saying, I'm sorry, Grandma. I was so stupid. Also, there was no one to whip you," Grandma said sternly. "No," Lucy thought, smiling to herself. "It's just that I ran away from myself and my love. I had to fight for it." Lucy made herself up for a long time in front of the mirror. She combed her platinum hair this way and that, and finally slicked it back and put it up in a dulcimer. Lucy painted her lips with soft pink lipstick, and looking at her, one could hardly believe that she was a woman who had been married twice and had given birth to a son. At that moment, she looked like a high school girl going out on a date for the first time. Katie entered the room. "Are you going to see him?" she asked understandingly. "Yes," she smiled. "We've made a mess of things." "Thank God you're still at the age when it's not too late to fix things," Kathy said with a sigh. "Mommy, what are you doing?" Lucy put her arms around her mother and began to kiss her. "God, what a pleasure it is to just hug your mother like that and know that you can do it," she thought. And I, silly me, rushed off. I don't know why. The result is disappointing. "No, it's okay, it's okay." Katie smiled through her tears. "I'm just happy for you." "There's nothing to be happy about yet," Lucy laughed softly. "There will be," said her mother. "I can feel it." Lucy was dressed in jeans and a light jacket of a soft salad color. She hasn't changed at all, Jack thought, looking at the love of his life. Except that she's even prettier. It's like these 10 years never happened. He's grown up and matured and more handsome, Lucy thought, looking at the one she couldn't imagine her life without. What fools we were. We've lost 10 whole years. "Hi," Jack said, smiling with one eye. "Hi," Lucy smiled back. "How are you?" he asked. "I'm fine," the young woman nodded. "A son, a job." "I have my own business too," Jack boasted. "Really?" she exclaimed. "Yeah, not as big as yours, of course, but still, I have a car service." "Good for you," Lucy said, looking at him lovingly. "I'm proud of you." "You're proud of me?" "Of course I am. But you're used to having the best, and what am I? Just a middling businessman." "And you are the best," Lucy said quietly, and their lips met. She knew it was wrong, because Jack was married, but Lucy would only be taking back what was rightfully hers. Besides, "Jack, there's something I have to tell you." "Lucy, there's something I've been meaning to ask you." They said it at the same time, and it was obvious that they were talking about the same thing. After a moment's silence, Jack made up his mind. "Lucy, I know you were married to a classmate. Do you have a child?" There was no doubt about it. Jack knows everything. "But how?" "No, Jack," she shook her head. "It's our baby." "But why didn't you say anything to me?" "I didn't dare," Lucy shrugged. "And then, remember how aloof you've been." "I was a jackass," Jack admitted. "I was a jackass." 3 months later. These 3 months were not easy, but Jack and Lucy overcame all the difficulties with honor. Catherine, although not immediately, but still gave Jack a divorce. And then the lovers went to Washington, but not to settle there. Lucy reported the extortionists to the police, and eventually it turned out that the red sweatshirt and athlete, as she dubbed them, were the most common crooks. Barry didn't owe them any money, so you can go about your business in peace, Barry's lawyer told Lucy. "I want to sell the restaurant as soon as possible," she said. "But if it's quicker then." "Thank you, I'm aware of that. But I still want it quicker, and I want the apartment." "But do as you're told," Lucy said. She was starting a new life and didn't want any reminders of the Capitol's life. Before leaving, she and Jack visited Billy and Julia. "Lucy, how good to see you," he exclaimed. "Maria, come here." A pretty brunette with huge brown eyes came out of the room. Lucy could see her rounded belly. "This is Maria, my wife," said Billy, looking lovingly at the brunette. "Congratulations," exclaimed the ex-wife and turned to the brunette. "Maria, you are very lucky to have a husband." "I know," smiled Maria. "And I propose to be friends at home," Lucy said cheerfully. "Anyway, I wanted to invite you to the wedding. Jack, what do you say?" "I accept the invitation," he smiled. "Thank you," thanked Billy. "We'll definitely be there." When Julia saw Lucy, she shook her hands and began to serve the guests with borscht and pancakes with meat and mushrooms. "Introduce me to the young man," the old woman asked with a smile. "This is Jack, my future husband and the best man in the world." I couldn't say it better. "In fact, we came to invite you to the wedding in person," Lucy said. "It's so far away," Julia groaned. "I'm too old for this sort of trip." "You're a woman in her prime," Lucy assured her, winking at her. "It's quite comfortable on the CB." "Well, all right," agreed, decided the kind old lady. "We lived once." "That's our way," said Jack. Lucy was getting married for the third time, and at the registration was worried as if it was the first time. In fact, it was, she told her university friend Ariana, who had flown in from New York for the occasion, "because this time I'm marrying the man I really love. This man was destined for me, and I foolishly did not realize it." "Well, let's not be sad. You're not drawn to Washington anymore, are you?" "Nah," she shook her head. "Jack and I have big plans. We're going to expand the network of service stations, and at each of them, we'll open a mini cafe for drivers." "How about that?" "I think it's great," Ariana agreed. "You know, in the capital I realized that the main thing is not where to live, but how to live. And if there is a beloved person near," said Lucy, and with a smile pressed against the shoulder of her new husband. "That's why it was so bitter in the glasses," Victor said with a sly smile, and the guests said bitter. But the young knew that their life would be only sweet.